يا أيها المدثر قم فأنذر وربك فكبر وثيابك فطهر والرجز فاهجر ولا تمنن تستكثر.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Welcome, sir. Just call you Nero.
Yeah, sure. I'm not Muslim. I am an atheist, and I've never had a reason to believe in a God.
Interesting. Okay. So by atheist, you believe in the rejection of God's existence, like there is no God, right?
I'd say generally I get more specific on each God concept because there's, even in each like major religion, there's about thousands of different ways it's interpreted.
Yeah, for sure. I think that if you're talking about from the Islamic paradigm, like the Islamic worldview, there was only one religion that ever existed, and that mankind corrupted it and changed a bunch of different things. In a sense that they changed certain scriptures, they changed the what they tried to portray as this deity, right? So you get like these weird like man gods, or you get these weird spaceship type alien type things, like the previous gentleman was mentioning. But from our worldview, there's only one God, and he had revealed himself through messengers. So if you're keen on atheism, I'm genuinely curious as to what your thought process is on people that claim prophethood.
A lot of people tend to convince themselves of things very easily, especially if they come up in a culture that's insists that it's real and basically affirms it when they think that they might be in that situation.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, there's definitely a great degree of social conditioning. From our worldview, we believe that the default position, the natural fitra, the natural inclinations to what somebody is on, is a state of belief rather than a state of disbelief. So through that social conditioning, whether that be like school or parents or anything like that, it takes them out of that fitra, and now they believe in something else. So I totally agree with your statement. Now, the people that you're saying that they're convinced of something, are you saying that they're also kind of led to believe in prophets and they're not actually doing any type of research for themselves?
Are you referring to the actual people claiming to be prophets, or are you referring to the people that believe in prophets?
As you like. If you want to talk about the ones that are actually claiming prophethood, great. If you want to talk about folks that believe in these claims, great. Whatever.
I guess which one were you more going towards when you asked the question initially?
I was going more towards the existence of people that were claiming that they are indeed receiving revelation from a deity. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's more where I was going with that too. Right. Generally, I do believe, I don't think I've ever heard of a prophecy that was like really fit the mold of what you'd expect like a divine prophecy to be. They always tend to be really vague or really easily flowery language or reinterpretable into something else. They're never specific. They're never anything like that. It's always something that people can turn into 20 different interpretations and make to fit basically anything they want to, if they really want to believe that it fits that.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So I think this is an excellent criteria, and it was one of the reasons why I accepted Islam wholeheartedly, on top of a bunch of other golden nuggets. I actually had to collect piles of golden nuggets. I was someone who was very analytical and very skeptical until I collected enough golden nuggets to say, hey, you know what? It can't be otherwise, right? So, for example, one of the criteria that I had set for myself in regards to prophecy is that it has to be time-bound, right? And the language that's used, it needs to be specific enough to the point where, just like you said, it can't be interpreted in any other way. And then obviously, if somebody is claiming to be a prophet, then at no point in time can any of the things that he is saying be falsified, because a prophet of God speaks truth if he was indeed a prophet of God. Is that all fair to say?
Sure. I think the other element of it is that even the concept of prophecy itself seems unnecessary. under the premises that are laid out by a lot of the major religions that claim an all-powerful God and an all-knowing God.
Why do you say that?
Because an all-powerful, all-knowing God should be able to convert people very easily without prophecy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that if he wanted us all to be upon one way, he would have done that. But it would defeat the purpose, right? It would defeat the purpose of an examination. So the idea is that he's given us the tools in order for us to make the decisions that we need to make to either follow his message or not in order to pass the examination or not.
Well, examinations are sort of pointless for an all-knowing being, no?
Yeah, for him, of course. The examination is not for him, it's for you.
What?
The examination is not for the all-knowing being. The examination is for you. You are a limited being. Huh?
Why?
Because this is what he determined.
Why would you need an examination?
This is what he determined to add purpose to things, right? What would your
so
purpose
if he
be?
doesn't? I mean, at that point, you might as well just say, why isn't the God just making people in the afterlife? Yeah, exactly as.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an answer to this, right? If you were just to be fast forwarded over to the afterlife, and let's say, for example, you were either spawned in heaven or spawned in hellfire, right? The people in hellfire would say, why did I get here? How did I get here? Why did you just spawn me in hellfire? And now they would say, if you would have just given me a playing field, if you would have given me a way to examine and to show you that I could actually be in the good place.
So if a God existed that was all-knowing and all-powerful, they'd have no need to make anyone that they knew was going to a hell.
How does that follow? How does it follow that because there is an examination here and now that this all-powerful being doesn't exist? Because now you're on the realm of a moral question, and what you're doing is you're using your sense of morality to determine what is good and what's bad.
So would you say a situation where someone goes to hell is a good thing or a bad thing?
Absolutely, it could be a good thing.
Why? Wouldn't it be better for that person just to have never been made in the first place?
Not at all, because then the conditions of the world would be different. When you say when you say something like it would be better, right? Now what you're doing is you're assuming that you would know more than an all-powerful creator. You're saying I could do something better, right? So albeit that there's tragedy out there, right? You have starvation, you have all sorts of things, war, chaos, deprivation, all these things, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this is part of the examination. In the Quran, he says that I will test you through your children, I will test you through loss of wealth, I will test you through life, through death, through wealth, through poverty. These are all the examinations. Now, what that does is that allows justice to spring forth, because now you, as someone who's a good person, can stand up for the person that is being unjust. And therefore, you have the ability to gain reward. Otherwise, if you don't have a form of what you would call evil or darkness or anything like that, how would you know what light is shining? So you're saying that this is the best possible world? This is the best possible world for what it was made for. Absolutely. This is not paradise. Which runs into the problem, basically the same logical problem of evil that you'll find in Christianity typically. You run in basically the idea that they're all knowing, they're all powerful. To say that they couldn't do better when I can conceptualize something better. How can you conceptualize something better? Yes, one less evil that is not the ideal way to play out. One singular less evil that is not ideal to play out would make the world better. One singular less evil would remove one good act, or one act of justice, or one act of counter evil or contra evil. So do you think that there's no action? So do you think that there's nothing that is not a performative evil? Do you think that all actions are somehow actually a good thing? Yes, absolutely. So you are committed to the idea that things like child rape or natural disasters killing people for no reason are all good things. You're assuming that it's for, number one, you're assuming that the natural disaster is something that is now either good or evil. A natural disaster is a natural disaster. Okay?
But bad
Number
things
two,
happen from it.
yeah, of course, bad things happen for it. That's part of the examination of the world. So, and the
Right.
same thing, I don't
So
think
one
that
less
child
natural
rape is,
bad thing.
just one moment, sir, if I
One,
may, because I want to address the things that you're laying down. I don't think that child rape is good in any way, shape, or form, in the sense that, you know, this act that's being committed is good. The consequences from it, meaning that people can stand up against it, and the people can administer justice from it, and the creator can administer justice in the realm outside of what you're currently seeing, right? Furthermore, you would now have to question the very anatomy of what people have. Now you're going to say, oh, okay, nobody needs to have any private parts whatsoever. So now you're going to say it would be better if we were created without any private parts, and maybe we just, you know, make copies of ourselves through some type of like a cellular, you know, split. But that's removing the examination.
But you're still committing yourself to basically taking any, let's give a very basic example. Earthquake happens, wall comes tumbling down, someone dies,
Yes.
someone gets unalived. And you are now committed to saying that is the ideal situation that should have happened.
Yes, absolutely. Because when you're looking at it from your worldview, there's no afterlife. But when you're looking at it from my worldview, this person's test, his examination has ended, and then we have to take a look at what the ruling is, or what are our teachings when something like this happens. So somebody that passes away through an earthquake dies as a martyr, or gets unalived as a martyr. And the very moment that their blood is spilled, all their sins are forgiven. Okay, so now the idea is, where was this person in their reflective position with God? Was this person someone who was a disbeliever, who was a rapist, who was a murderer, who was doing all sorts of heinous things, and then the earthquake happens? Is this person forgiven according to our teachings? No. But if this person was a believer, if this person was a child, if this person was a pregnant woman, okay, then both the pregnancy and the mother go to paradise. So when you look at things holistically, now you have a comprehensive answer as to why something transpired. But when you're looking at it halfway, which is limited from an atheistic worldview, you see it as nothing more than a tragedy.
Right. And I consider your viewpoint as monstrous.
Right, because you don't believe in an afterlife. That's why you
And I have
consider
no
it
reason to
monstrous.
believe in one.
You do. We started this conversation with the idea of prophets, and then you went into morality. But you actually have no way to gauge morality. It's purely subjective. Whereas we have an objective way. So what I'd like to do...
Well, I'd say that there's an objective way via chemical empathetic reactions. You can get down to an objective grounding of morality, though it would be difficult to give an objective take on morality in terms of it's bad to do this, something you could say in one sentence. And that really explains why so many people disagree on what's good and what's bad. Because what people are really doing is they're taking their moral intuitions of suffering and flourishing in what would result in the best result for as many people as possible and disagreeing. That's the grounding in question for morality in my worldview.
Okay, so again, it comes down to subjectivity, because somebody, let's say somebody is out there and they're committing heinous crimes and they get a dopamine rush. Okay, and now their grounds for morality is completely different than someone like you, who gets something like a cortisol rush or an oxytocin rush, right? And they get this grand feeling of empathy. So who's correct?
Generally, I would say it's like a grand mathematics of what would be the ideal result for as many people and in many situations as possible. What you're describing more is people's limitation in evaluating that rather than an actual subjective element to the morality in question.
Okay, you're going to run into two issues. The first one is, what if you're the only one that's involved in the incident? So let's say, for example, you signed a contract with a woman that when she passes away, that you can conduct lewd acts with her body. And her family, who is also alive, completely agreed to that. And now it's just between you and that deceased carcass. Now what?
I mean, if literally everyone involved is okay with it and like there's literally no downside to it outside of a social taboo that's popped up in a government, then I really don't see a reason why that would be a problematic thing outside of trying to force your own subjective opinion onto others.
Okay. So you see, this is where we have a fundamental difference in our train of thought. For me to hear you say that makes me believe that you are suffering from some type of mental disorder. And I mean that with all
Sure,
due
but
respect.
you're
I'm
also
not- I'm not
committing
trying
yourself
to-
to saying that that's the same situation is a good thing. You have
No,
literally...
no, it's not a good thing.
Yes, you are.
I'm saying, no, I'm not. I'm not. Because
Right, because you're saying, but it's your God's grand plan. This is what your God wants. It's ultimately a good
I'm
thing.
happy.
It's
I'm
for the
happy to
greater
let you
good.
speak. Sir, I'm happy to let you speak. And again, I'm happy to let you speak. The reason why there's a difference is because I have an objective standard that God had revealed that something like this is not permissible. Now, to your point of saying that this is God's grand plan, I am going to be held to account for the action that I take or that I don't take. So if God had revealed saying that this is not permissible, and that I believe in that God, and I had taken this action knowing full well that it's impermissible, now he's going to hold me to account, because the Quran tells us that I need to hold myself to account before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds me to account. You, on the other hand, even if you disbelieve in this God, and you still commit the act, which you accept to do under social circumstances, right? If all things were hunky-dory, as you said, the Creator is still going to hold you to accountability because he had revealed himself. He gave you the qualifying criteria. He gave you the message. He gave you the prophets. You ignored all of that, and you still committed the act, following your own desires. So you're screwed either way. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, that would require it to exist in the first place. There's a big assumption.
So that's what I'm saying. So why bother talking about morality? Let's go to his existence.
No. Well, just to finish off the point is that in your stated view, you are still committed to saying that maybe like in isolation, this is a bad thing, but your God made the person knowing they do it and knowing it in a way that makes it actually the best possible thing that could have happened in that situation. That is the stance that you've taken here.
Yes, it is the best possible thing.
Saying that it's acceptable. You're not just saying it's acceptable. You're saying it's ideal.
No. I'm saying that it's part of the construct of the world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his infinite wisdom, is going to know what examinations he needs to place down for people. Because the reality of the situation is there are people that are sick in the mind, meaning that they think that these types of actions are okay. You have people that are marrying dogs. You have people that are marrying themselves. You have people that are castrating themselves and changing their physical appearances for the purposes of seeking out their own desires. You have people that are intermingling and doing all sorts of heinous things. This is all within the realm of possibility. From our worldview, excuse me?
I said intermingling. I can only assume what you mean by that.
They're intermingling with the same sex.
Yeah, that's
what's there possibly to
say? It's a horrible thing for you to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
because again, so hold on, sir, just really quickly, sir. For you to think that somebody can penetrate somebody else's anal cavity and think that it's a place of, excuse me, just let me finish, please. Think that this is a clean place where you know that defilement comes out from there. You know that your body's own excrement comes out from there. To think that it's okay for the purposes of seeking your own pleasure and your own desires is a further attestation to my point that it's your subjectivity is what's allowing you to dictate on what's correct and what's not correct.
The irony is that you're still taking the stance that everything that happens is the ideal way for this world to happen, including the bad things.
Sir, there's no irony in it. There's no irony in it, sir, because I believe in a just and fair God, and he's going to be the one to give the examination in the best way possible. So if people are given the examinations of following their own desires, so much so to the point where they, with their own two eyes, can see the defilement, with their nose, they can smell the defilement, and they're still committing this type of an act, even though I don't understand what you find so funny. Like
the fact that you're talking like a Bronze Age farmer.
A Bronze Age farmer. Okay. Is there anything that I said that was incorrect, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so poop doesn't stink?
Literally calling it defilement is basically
It is
loading
defilement.
reflection
It is defilement.
in every single
Excrement.
capacity.
It is excrement, sir. It is excrement.
Yeah.
It is excrement.
Calling it defilement specifically.
It is defilement. It is
a
defilement. There is
loaded
purpose for what that
phrase.
there is purpose for what that cavity is made for, sir. And it's certainly not meant
No,
for male to male penetration.
It's an evolved cavity.
An evolved
It works
cavity,
to do a
sir.
function, but purpose implies a designed intent.
Okay, so hang on one second. An evolved cavity, which has excrement coming out from it, is now more important to you, right? That the creator that had put this. I'm sorry, you're yawning. Are you bored? I can let you go.
No,
it's okay.
I'm sighing.
You're sighing. Okay, so let me get this straight, sir. From what I can gather from this conversation, it seems to me that you lean a particular way, right? Because this was clearly offensive to you.
No,
right?
I don't.
Okay, so
I just have actual morals.
you have morals. Where do you get your morals from, sir?
Actual human experience. You get them from a Bronze Age. You get them from an ages-old book from people that do not have modern abilities to understand and sensibilities.
That's not
You're
true.
literally sounding like a freaking Bronze Age farmer. You sound monstrous and vile to just the most extreme degree, man.
Okay.
The fact that you think you sound good when you say this is horrifying.
Yeah. Okay. So let me make sure I get something straight. You get your morals from subjective experiences. Yes?
Yes, because I actually care about how people experience their lives.
Let me steel man your position right here.
When people hurt, when they suffer, when they flourish, I care about that.
Sir,
you don't.
Sir, that's not true. You're just making claims you can't back up.
The fact that you don't actually get your morals from subjective experience of people flourishing and suffering means that you don't actually think that matters.
That's not true, sir. I think that you have.
Then your morals can't be objective.
If you'll just allow me, if you will allow me to speak, Number one, you keep talking about moral arguments, but you're talking about subjectivity. If you want to talk about subjectivity, I don't even need revelation. I can just tell you from my subjective point of view, it's a vile thing, and you would have no grounds to stand on whatsoever. Now you're going to still call me, hold on, sir. Now you're still going to call me a bronze-aged farmer, even though that I've taken revelation completely out of it. What makes your subjectivity more superior than my subjectivity, sir?
Well, for one, I said you sound like a Bronze Age farmer from how you were going about phrasing it, like you were reading from like a 5th century book.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of subjectivity versus other subjectivity, you calling it vile? Okay, what's the subjective rationale for calling it vile?
It's my opinion. That's all that I need.
Opinions are based on things.
It's my own subjective opinion.
I don't think you understand what subjective means then.
I do understand what subjective means. I don't think you
understand.
So
is it just an instinct, an intuition? It makes you feel icky?
Well, absolutely. Subjective.
So it makes you feel icky. That's your big subjective idea.
Does it make you feel happy? What? Does it make you feel happy, sir?
Makes me feel happy when other people are happy.
Okay, so it just makes you feel happy. Okay, and
that's the difference between.
So hang on, sir. So hang on. Again, now we're butting heads on subjectivity. Here's the root issue with people like yourselves, and I mean this with all due respect. Number one, they ignore the apparent and the explicit. You don't want to talk about prophets. You don't want to talk about the revelation, and you go towards the ambiguous. You want to talk about moral objectivity and subjectivity and morality, but you have no ground to stand on whatsoever. Because 50 years ago, 100 years ago, or 200 years from now, your morality is going to change. Okay? And then you think that you're on some type of superior or moral high ground when you actually have no idea on how to determine it. You have no baseline whatsoever. It's just perpetually changing and evolving.
So do you recall what I said the objective basis for my morality was?
Just hold on one second, sir. So much.
You're strawmanning me.
I'm not strawmanning you, sir.
Yes, you are. So this is why I'm asking the question.
Sir,
you recall what I said the objective basis for my morality
Allow me to finish, please. So much.
But you're strawmanning me.
Sir, so much so to the point that when I asked you if you're going to commit a necrophilic act, and you had the consensus of the people who were related to that carcass, you're okay with that. And you're going to tell me that you're on moral high ground. You're going to tell me that me talking like a Bronze Age farmer or using terms like defilement or vile.
Yeah, it's because something made you feel icky. You think it's a bad thing.
But sir, some type of a necrophilic act made you feel good.
Answer the question from before.
What's the question, sir?
What is the objective basis I propose for my morality?
Don't have any. You're talking about society.
I proposed it. I offered it. I explained it, and
you did not explain it. You did not explain it.
Okay, shall I explain it for a second time?
No, you don't have to, because I remember.
Because you want to go on a narrative. You want to go on a rant. You don't want to actually listen to what I have to say.
I heard what you have to say, sir. You don't have to repeat yourself. I'll repeat it for you. I'll repeat it to prove to you that I'm listening.
Give me the objective basis that I offer.
You had said that you would go based off of what society had constructed in an evolutionary manner paired with your subjectivity, correct?
Wrong.
Okay. Go ahead and repeat it again for me, because clearly I did not understand. So go ahead, repeat it for me.
The general objective basis The general objective basis for morality has to do with the suffering or flourishing of different humans, which boils down to different chemicals going on the brain. The objective element of it is what happens in the brain. The subjective element gets instilled when you make it more complicated, when there's a grand math involved, trying to understand, intuit, make logical decisions as to what will create the best outcomes for as many people as possible. There's a subjective element not to the basis of morality, but to how people try to come to conclusions as to what will actually create the most suffering or flourishing, or at least suffering and most flourishing. So there is an objective basis to it. You just choose.
Now, do you recall what my response was? Do you recall? No, sir, I addressed the issue.
You literally said it back to me.
Allow me to speak.
Wrong.
I'm not going to tell you again. Right? You presented your case. Now I'm just going to go ahead and give you the response that I gave you previously. You said that it's a chemical reaction. The example that I gave you was if you were committing an act and you received a dopamine rush and it felt good to you, okay? Then your subjectivity came in as an emotion. Do you understand? So now you're going to generally apply that to society over the principles of harm and healing, right? So principalities of good and principalities of bad. What I try to explain to you is that you and I are going to have different reactions, both chemically, and we're going to have different reactions emotionally. And then our subjective nature is going to take over on which way we want to go. But you have no way of determining what is better than the other, because societal standards will shift and change. So now, if you were to look 150 years ago or 200 years ago, the moral objectivity and the standard that you would apply chemically may be the same for certain people. Somebody might get a dopamine rush, somebody might get an oxytocin or cortisol rush, and their stress hormones will trigger. However, their subjectivity towards the matter would be different. So now, society of what was applicable 150 years ago and society of what will be applicable 200 years from now, you're going to run into issues. You have no baseline. It is always boiling down to a societal consensus based on the chemical reactions of some particular minority or majority group, in which other minority or other majority group members will feel isolated and feel betrayed and feel like their morals are not worthy in some way, shape, or form. You run into an issue, and then I explain to you that the way that you're viewing things is purely materialistically in this world, where you have to come full circle because there's an afterlife, but you don't believe in the afterlife. So now the very judgments that you're using, the very judgments that you're attributing chemically, societally, and so on, do not have a baseline for the afterlife. You have no objective grading criteria at all, period. You have objective mechanisms that are being trickled down to a subjective standard. This is what you have, sir. That's it.
I have yes. What you're proposing is not a difference in baseline existing or not. What you're proposing is people getting better data, better understanding, more understanding of other people groups, all that sort of stuff, developing over time, as I said, the grand math of taking the actual objective baseline and trying to turn it into something we can use into society. From my perspective, what you're saying is, I hate that this is complicated. How dare you not let me simplify it down into this feels icky?
That's not what I'm saying at all, sir. I'm saying that there's a...
That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I'm sorry that that's the way that it sounds like to you. What I'm proposing is a method that was revealed by a creator, but I have to get you to the point where you believe in a creator. You're not going to just... You're going to think that I'm just telling you what some magic pie in the sky said, right? So that's why I said you should stay away from moral conversations, because you, as somebody who does not believe in a creator, has no way to determine morality objectively. You have a subjective blend on morality, and you're saying that the objective mechanisms are chemical. And I'm trying to tell you that even the chemical reactions are subjective. Do you understand? Then you're trying to say it's on a principle of generality. And what I had presented to you was, what if there was no generality, but if it was case specific for a person, and I gave you the analogy that I gave you, to which you completely agreed with, which is very troubling to me. Now, what other alternative do we have? The other alternative is if there was a creator, if this creator revealed himself, if this creator sent messengers, and if this creator gave us an objective standard, now we have a baseline to take a look at our subjectivity and reflect upon what the objective standard says. Because if there was a creator, the creator will know us better than we know ourselves. He will know us best to what's applicable to ourselves and society and the world as a whole. And you're just refusing that.
I'm refusing your committed stance that every single thing is the ideal, best way that the universe could be. That every single bad thing actually is about as ideal as it can be.
Yes, and
because that is something that you've already committed to. You already committed to that.
Yeah, and I'm fine. I'm not going to retract my statement. Everything on this planet is as ideal as it can be for the purposes of the examination. So I gave you qualifying.
Which means if I choose, which means if some random person chose to go out and do serial unalivings,
sure,
that would still be ideal in your mind. That would be a situation you can look at and that was a wise thing for it to happen in the world. That is the stance you take. That is the thing you're offering me.
Now you're controlling my words.
My stance. If I could finish. If I could finish.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's the thing that you're offering in contrast to my stance of we can see an objective element to what causes suffering and flourishing in people. And we do our best as much as we are limited and not capable of being like the best versions of that. We do our best to try to apply it so that the most people are flourishing and the least people are suffering. That is the two options that have been posed here. One where everything is a very specific, generalized, vague, like simplistic standard that we all have to go to, where everything is the most ideal thing that it could possibly be, even the most heinous things that you can see. That is the best situation that could have ever played out in. All your sadness and suffering is just the best way that could have played out. Or,
and I keep telling you, this is a false dichotomy.
We take what we know exists in the world, and we know what exists in the world, and we take that to do the best we can to make as many people happy as possible.
And again, what I'm trying to tell you is a false dichotomy because you don't believe in an afterlife. I tried to explain that to you multiple times. When you see a tragedy happen, you see somebody picking up a weapon and going on an unaliving spree, you only see it in this realm. You do not.
So there's an easy refutation to that.
What's the refutation, sir? Let's hear the easy refutation.
Sure. So if we are in a situation with an all-powerful, all-knowing God, if the situation is where people have an afterlife, have a place that is ideal, there is no reason that they should actually live through this exam.
That's not true. I already told you that there is a reason.
If I could finish.
You don't have to finish, sir. You're repeating yourself. I gave you the reason already.
No, I'm expanding on it.
Okay, go ahead.
Because what an all-powerful, all-knowing God could do is they could create the person in the finished form they already know that they'd be going to if they created the world with all the memories intact and at the very least, or softened or only the good things there. And they could have known the exam already played out and just put all the people that were going to go to the good place in question. They could have just put them in there, which means that this exam, this life under that premise of an afterlife is pointless.
Okay. Are you finished, sir?
Sure.
Do you recall the response that I gave you to this very same question that you gave?
Nope, because I was waiting to say it and I never had a chance to say it.
I did say it, sir, and I told you the idea is if somebody was fast forwarded over to either the good place or the bad place, the person that was put in the bad place would say, why didn't you give me a chance to actually go through an examination? Why did you?
But I posed the idea that the memories could be instilled within those people, that they don't actually have to go through that experience. They could just remember it like they did.
Okay, and
that would be less suffering.
I'm trying to explain to you that when you say less sufferable, sir, and that person says these were just memories that were implanted in my life and I didn't actually have a chance to go through, that person can argue, why did you implant false memories in my mind? Okay.
If the
So
God is
here's the
all-knowing
issue-
and all-powerful,
Sir,
then the God has no reason not to do
here's
that.
your issue.
Because they have
The
no
issue that
reason
you're-
to
sir,
doubt that
I
that
gave you
person
plenty
would
of
have done
time to
that.
speak. I gave you plenty of time to speak. Please don't talk
Oh,
over
I'm
me.
responding.
So I'm not finished. There's nothing to respond to yet. Your
I just
issue
had
is-
something to respond to. That's why I said the thing.
No problem, sir.
Okay.
Your issue is number one, you don't believe in a deity that is higher power. But then when you see suffering in the world, you're quick to blame on this deity that supposedly exists in your world. So now,
No.
okay, sir. So let me flip the script on you. The suffering is still happening and God doesn't exist. Now what?
Expected?
That's it. So just ashes and dust. Expected.
Sure. You make meaning in this world. I've been an atheist since I was born.
So the
I've never
expectation is
seen any
meaningless.
reason to
Then.
try
So
to
this
go
whole
for an
world is
afterlife.
meaningless. Hold on, sir. So this whole world is just meaningless then?
Only if you make it meaningless for yourself.
You
and
made
if
it
that's
meaningless.
yours.
You made it meaningless
No.
for everybody that's listening.
As
You
someone
just
who's
made it
been an
meaningless.
atheist my entire life, to say that my life is meaningless is nonsense. If
But
you
it
think
is
that your life
meaningless.
would be
You're meaning- it's
meaningless, if
ashes
I
and
could finish,
dust.
if I could finish,
Tell me-
if I
no,
could
no,
finish,
hang
if I
on,
could
sir,
finish,
hang
if I
on,
could
sir, hang
finish,
on.
if I could finish, if I could
No,
finish,
you
if I could
cannot.
finish.
And I'm going to give you one
Of
final
course I
warning.
can't, because
I'm going to give you one final warning. So
To not let
you
you
did
cut
good in
me
this
off?
world. Let's say you gave charity. You gave to charity. What's the meaning in that?
to help other people.
It's meaningless.
No,
Meaningless. It has no consequence whatsoever. At all.
no, no. It literally makes other
From
people
your
happy.
worldview, it has no consequence
You
whatsoever.
can't tell me what my worldview is,
You're telling me what your worldview is.
and you're straw manning it
I'm not
really,
strawmanning
really
it at all.
badly.
You just
Yes, you
said,
are. You
you
can't-
just said that in your worldview, if there is no attribution to any type of act, it's basically ashes and dust. Our entire
No, that's what you
existence-
said.
Okay. What's the purpose of our existence, sir?
Purpose implies intent. I prefer the word meaning, and meaning is self-created.
What's the meaning of your existence?
Generally, I really like stories, experiences. I think there's so many wonderful things in the world to experience. I like to be able to experience things and be able to see all these different stories, ideas, see other people be happy, their own experiences, that sort of stuff. It really does give me a real sense of, as you'd call it, purpose.
Okay. So now I'm going to steelman your position. Everything that you just said, I'm going to say to the contrary. Hearing you speak, hearing your stories, seeing your experiences is all meaningless. Now what? Who's correct?
The person who defines their own meaning.
I just defined my own meaning by going contra to your meaning. Who's correct?
Could you repeat it? I may have missed a notable part.
Okay, sure. Everything that you just said, the whole kumbaya story of feeling hunky-dory and good and living this, rah, super happy life, okay? I'm going to go to the contrary. Who has more meaning?
Let's say that's about the same.
It's about the same. So basically what you're telling me is A equals A, and my meaninglessness and your meaning is the same. If my meaninglessness and your meaning is the same, how does that work out?
Because it's
what?
It's not claiming the same meaning for everyone.
It's not claiming the same meaning for everyone. Okay, cool. So now I can be the guy.
It's A equals B.
No, it's not A equals B. So
I'm not claiming meanings are the same for everyone.
Okay. You're saying that everybody can determine their own meaning. And I said, I'm going to determine my meaning based on exactly a contra of what yours is. So now, let's say, for example, you want to be the hunky-dory good guy, right? And I want to be the thief that steals every time that you give charity. And I want to be the guy that goes on a mass, whatever spree and doing a whole bunch of vile and heinous acts and stuff like that. And both of us have the same meaning from your worldview.
Not the same meaning. Our
Not
own
the same
created
meaning.
meaning.
Our own created meaning.
created-
But we hold the same value to our own created meaning. I value
'Cause
my
it's
meaning
subjective.
just as, hold on, sir. Because what?
Because meaning is subjective.
Okay,
That's why it's not
subjective.
purpose.
Okay, so now
That's
you're
why
coming
it's
back
not
to subjectivity. So
But that's
now
why
this
it's
is
not
the issue.
purpose.
Okay, so
Notice
this is the
because-
issue.
Because the problem is meaning is subjective. There's nothing you can get away from that.
I'm trying to
Even
tell
your-
you that
even
meaning
your
is not
perceived-
subjective. It's not. It's not subjective. That's what you're not.
Well-
you're not picking up what I'm putting down.
Well,
man.
every single intuition I have in my life is contradictory to what you just claimed there.
What?
Every
Okay.
single experience I've had in my entire life contradicts the claim of there being a objective purpose to life, to our life,
Every
to my
single
life, to your life.
experience. Every single
Yes,
experience.
I have
that you've
never had anything that would agree with what your perceived meaning to life is, which means that our meanings to life can't be exactly the same.
Now, so the whole idea was to steelman your argument. It's not saying that, it's the value that you're placing on your subjectivity and the value that I'm placing on my subjectivity. Is you are now all of a sudden placing a greater value on yours and a lesser value on mine. And I'm trying to tell you that you don't have the authority to do that. Okay, if you're placing an equal value on it, sir, then the actions that I'm conducting, albeit that they're evil actions, are meaningless. And the actions that you're conducting, albeit that they're good actions, are also equally meaningless. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, because you're trying to say that actions can either be in a line with an objective purpose, or they cannot be in line with objective purpose, when all I'm saying is that everyone has their own.
Sir, you don't have an objective purpose. You have a subjective purpose. You have no objective purpose whatsoever.
Purpose implies intent, so that's why I use meaning.
Okay, I understand. You told me that already, but you don't have you don't have any objectivity to reflect upon. What is you have purely subjectivity. So, like, for example, if you go
it's my life.
Yes, sir, it is your life, but you didn't give yourself life. Understand?
So,
okay,
it's still my life.
If you didn't give yourself life, then who gave it to you?
Like, you could probably get a lot of causality out of the different chemical reactions involved.
Think deeper. Think deeper. Who gave it to you? Who gave you your consciousness? Who gave you the ability to apply meaning? Who gave you the ability to think?
Fundamental particles.
Fundamental particles. A mind
building up into an emergent process in order to create a mind that is capable of doing all that.
Where are you getting that? It's immaterial. We're talking about fundamental particles.
Why would it be immaterial? Why would it be material?
So you think your mind is material?
It's an emergent property.
An emergent property?
Yeah, of your brain. Why would it not
be? Of a
be?
brain. Okay, so your mind is contingent, yes, on the brain.
It's an emergent property.
Okay, fine. I'll give it to you for the sake of conversation. It's an emergent property of the brain, yes?
Sure.
Okay, now, is the brain contingent?
On what?
Anything.
Like, we're going down, you're just going down to
No, because I'm gonna take you down. Is the brain contingent?
Let's go down to fundamental particles. Sure.
Okay, great. Are the fundamental particles contingent?
I'd say based on quantum mechanics, generally there is not actually an implication that needs to be
what
contingent.
What are you talking about quantum mechanics? What? Tell me, explain to me. Is quantum mechanics contingent?
No.
It's not.
Yeah, you could actually look this up.
Really? I can look this up. Okay, so let's probe the depths of your knowledge. Let's probe the depths of your knowledge when it comes to quantum mechanics, because I'm sure you're going to do the whole light and particle thing, right? So explain to me how they move, because all you're going to be discussing is the behavior. You're not going to actually be discussing their origins. So you're talking about the behavior of quantum mechanics. Now, what is the thing that even in the field of quantum mechanics, what do they say is contingent? What's necessary? In order for quantum mechanics to take place, what's necessary?
Fundamental particles.
Okay, so you now have quantum mechanics that is contingent on fundamental particles, yes? And then you're saying that the particles are contingent on quantum mechanics. Is that not circular, sir?
No.
No, it's not. So they're two contingent on one another, right?
So the point of quantum mechanics, I'm not saying it's contingent on quantum mechanics. I'm saying that quantum mechanics is the field that evaluates the quantum level of all this. And
sir, where did you get the fundamental particles from? Because we have a very funny joke about this. It always existed. They always.
There's actually absolutely no reason to believe they didn't already exist.
Okay. Or we have a very funny joke about this in Islam, where an atheist passes away and he meets God, and he goes, we figured out a way on how to have life without your existence, right? And God says, okay, how'd you do that? And the atheist goes, okay, what you do is you take some primordial soup, and God says, wait a minute, go get your own. So here's you saying, oh, listen, there was fundamental particles, right? And God's saying, go get your own. Where'd you get your fundamental particles from?
Where'd you get your God from?
He revealed himself. He's self-existing.
It's
So
the
now,
universe, the fundamental particles are self-existing. You're not proposing anything interesting.
So now the universe, is it constructed based off contingent things?
No, because the fundamental particles aren't contingent.
Sir,
You said constructed. It is constructed.
The universe
off of
itself is contingent. The universe, the part-whole relation between fundamental particles, between quarks, between leptons, between all these things, okay? These are all contingent things on the universe's existence. There is a part-whole relation. Do you understand?
The interactions are contingent upon each other, but the actual
never mind the
particles,
interactions. The very
fundamental
existence of the particles is contingent. The very existence of the things that you're talking about is contingent. When you
and you have
the
zero reason to believe that. You're just claiming it.
My bro,
Read up.
That I have.
Read up.
What do you mean read up? I've been teaching you this whole time. You have no idea what you're talking about. You just think that you're using fancy words, and then when I tell you that all these things are contingent, you boil down to circular reasoning. Words? Okay. Obviously, this isn't going anywhere, and it lasted way longer than it should have. Number one.
Okay. Continue being a moral monster. Bye-bye.
No problem. As if he offended anybody in any way with that statement. This is someone who believes that committing necrophilic acts is morally okay, which I would admit that I can't even believe that I carried on the conversation after he said that that was completely fine.